So in the past, I struggled with the desperation that came with not being enough. Okay, so I was always thinking I had to be better than this. I had to do more. I was never enough. And, hence that made me vulnerable to things like getting stuff that just didn't belong to me, in order to fit in or to be like somebody. Or I was always envious about, of the most intelligent person in my class. And eventually, that led to jealousy, which gave birth to bitterness. That, my friend, was a very bad way of growing up mentally. All right. No one should have to have that kind of mentality. And that is why I bring to you this 4-part series called Eat Your Corn Ice Cream Code. I know this has got nothing to do with ice cream, but then who would want to eat their corn ice cream all hot and melted, right? I thought so. So this 4-part series will enlighten your mind, open your heart, and inform your life deeply and greatly. I will address acceptance in 4 ways. Number 1, accepting where you've been, accepting where you've not been, and accepting where you are. And the 4th one will be accepted, but don't make a home there. This will be the 4-part series, and I promise you it will change your mindset. And it has changed mine. And ever since I discovered and applied these 4 things for my life, it has never been the same. I am happier now and more evolved, and I believe that they will work for you too. So this May 2024 will be acceptance, and it is called Eat Your Corn Ice Cream Code. Happy listening. Welcome back. It is the Unspoken Podcast with your girl Chrisley, or if you like, you could call it Unspoken with Chrisley. It is either of the two. Welcome back. If this is your first time to the episode, I want to welcome you. This is a home. This is your safe space. This is your safe place. And this is a place where you get to relate with, life situations, and for you to know that you're not alone. You're comforted. This is your place. This is your platform. And in case this is you coming back, if this is not your first time and you've been a part of this from 2021, I want to say welcome back. And I apologize. I am really sorry for not being consistent. I'm really sorry for not bringing you an episode as promised, and for just taking so long to come back, and for not producing anything this year, and for coming in only in the 4th month of the year, January, February, March, April, May, in the 5th month of the year. I want to apologize and say I'm sorry for allowing life to get in the way of something great, for allowing life to get in the way, of something that can change lives and transform people. And, I just want to again apologize for that. And I want to also be sorry, apologize to myself. This is our safe place. So I want to apologize to myself. I'm sorry, Chrisley, for not, upholding and being accountable to something that is great and big. Okay, so this is not a female podcast, you know what I mean? Even males and men are really welcome. And so if this relates to your life, I want you to give a thumbs up or comment anywhere from where you're listening to this from. Comment in the comment section, or drop me a DM, or drop me a message and tell me, hey, Chrisley, this relates to my life. Thank you so much. Sometimes feedback, I want to tell you about how important feedback is before we get into the episode. Feedback is really important. It is what motivates us as content creators. And I know it sounds a little bit boggish or, petty, but feedback is really important for me, because when you tell me, hi, Chrisley, I listened to your podcast, it was really relatable, or hi, Chrisley, thank you so much for that. It doesn't even have to be a long message. It doesn't have to be something that relates to you directly, but you just, giving me some feedback is really motivating. And so it becomes a bit demotivating. Not that we're not self-motivated. I mean, for me to be doing this whenever I can is actually self-motivation enough. But I'm saying the feedback is really important for me. And it just gives me that, that hope that, oh, wow, this is actually changing someone's life. And so, so if you can share as well, I'll really appreciate it for you to share. So from wherever you're listening to, whether you're listening to it on Spotify, for podcasters, whether you're listening to this on YouTube, whether you're listening to this on Google Podcasts, whether from wherever you're listening to it, be it on YouTube or TikTok, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And I hope we can grow this year. I hope that this is not the last week, this is not the last month, but we can go to December, and we will grow together, and we will talk together. We will be controversial together. We will cry together. We will grow and build together. And so I'm pretty sure you've heard my little introductory message. That is what we're doing. Eat Your Corn Ice ice cream code, I am calling it. And so we are on part 1. It is a 4-part series. Welcome again. So I'm calling this Accepting Where You've Been. So I'm pretty sure you may be wondering, why are you calling it Eat Your Corn Ice Cream Code? I mean, how else then will we eat corn ice cream if not cold? And so why I've gotten this little illustration is because if you think about it, it's really unrealistic to have your corn ice cream melted and all hot, and that's when you're eating it, and you maybe put it in a bowl. I don't know how you can imagine that. It's so impossible, right? And it doesn't even sound attractive. It doesn't sound edible. That's exactly what not accepting your situation looks like. It looks like you having your corn ice cream in a bowl, hot and melted. You get your spoon and you're drinking it like it's milk. Because in the first place, it's why did you even go and buy it, right? Just that. And that's why I thought of calling this part series Eat Your Corn Ice Cream Code. Sounds irrelevant, but it will make sense in case you haven't caught on up to now. So accepting where you've been. It's a 4-part series. Accepting where you've been. I'm also calling it Face It, Fix It, Make It Better. And now we're in the Face It. So accepting where you've been is facing it. What are you facing? I've listed down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 things that we should face, or 13 things that I feel people should face. Things we're not facing, things we're not accepting. We look at where we've been and we refuse to accept. Hence, we burn out. We burn ourselves to blinding ourselves to what the reality is. You don't want to face the reality of things. You to face who you are and who you've been, or where you've been. Okay? If you were once a thief, I think you have to accept that that's where I was in the past, and not try to blind it with, all sugar coats and whatever it is that you can call it. So I said I've listed 13 things, and we're going to go through them, step by step, one by one, so that we can all follow through. And the keywords in all this is understand, recognize, and acknowledge. And I think that is what I believe we all need to come to that place where we understand, where we recognize and we acknowledge that is where I was. And I hope and I believe and I pray deeply in my heart that at the end of this episode, it would have clicked in your mind. Okay, it would have clicked in your mind what and where you've been. And I hope that after this episode, you will sit with yourself and you reflect. And probably you can save the episode and listen to it whenever you feel lost, because that's where sometimes we normally forget where we've been. I don't know if you remember Muna and Kane Lion King, where Mufasa was telling his son, remember who you are. Mufasa was basically just telling him that, I think, Simba, you've forgotten where you've been. You've forgotten who you were. And I think I'm going to use that. We're going to use Lion King today. Because that's what, we grew up watching. I don't know about you, but I grew up watching Lion King. I know them. I know the words and whatever, word for word. But anyway, we're going to start with the first one. Number 1, shame. And I'm only going to be taking a few seconds to talk about that. Shame and embarrassment. I think I'll combine these two, shame and embarrassment. You're ashamed of where you're from. Maybe you come from a poor background. You have a shameful past. Probably you aborted at some point. I don't know why that came to be the first thing in my mind, but probably you aborted in the past and that's your shame. You lost your womb. Okay, I don't know who's listening to this, who probably that has happened to you. You've been through that. You are ashamed of where you come from, and hence you hide who you are today. Okay, probably, there's that thing that they say, fake life, And now, only because you can afford what it is that you can afford, you don't even bring out that side. You refuse to accept that ndiwa kukombon. That's what I'm saying. You refuse to accept that background-wise, you're poor. And so that is not a right way of living. You can't live your life, forgetting where you've been. In fact, not even forgetting, refusing to accept that is your background. Okay? So embarrassment, shame. You're ashamed. You're embarrassed of who you were in the past. Remember, I talked about if you used to steal. I used to steal when I was a kid because I just wasn't satisfied with what I had. I wasn't content, and probably I was content, but I just wasn't satisfied. And I think you listened to my introductory message. I said, because of certain things, there was the tendencies that just begin to grow with trying to fit in. You become envious because you're not applauded when you do good. You never told you're a good girl, and probably, it will move me to our third one. From the 13 I said I'll talk about, the third one is probably you've just got childhood trauma and you refuse to accept that the reason as to why you are the way you are today is because probably there was just something that just wasn't done, when you were young. And one of the childhood traumas is probably you were just never complimented when you were young. And that is why today you overdo it. You are constantly on this self-love project that, look, for me, I don't agree with this new age things of self-love. Love yourself more than shining. Me this, me that. Love yourself. It's only you. It's you against the world. New age drama. I think all that is just basically someone who probably in the past was never complimented, was never loved. You just don't know what love is because you never received it, and probably it's part of your trauma. You were so traumatized as a kid that now, you only do things for you. It's you. Probably you were hurt in the past. Okay. And so these are things that where you were. Okay. So you don't want to accept that that's where you've been. You don't want to accept that your mother is gone. She's dead. You don't want to accept that you just didn't grow up with a father. You don't want to accept that your parents divorced and then they separated, and you don't want to accept that, and now you've grown up and now you just hate marriages because your dad nearly cheated on your mom, and so now all men are bad. You know what I mean? That's really not you accepting the situation, which is the reality. We never want to face the reality of things. And, that's me moving to the fourth one, which is you were once in a better place. Okay. You're facing the reality. You don't want to face that you were once in a better place and now you're just not anymore. You could have been probably rich. Maybe you came from a rich family. Maybe you were rich and just one day your dad went broke, or probably the company, died. Your house was seized or something like that. You just became, you were once rich. That's accepting that's where you were, right? You were once rich. You guys were the people that they talked about. That thing about that's who you were. You were in a better place before, in the past. You were better looking in your teens. You were better looking maybe when you went to university, and now you're married. And it's just not the way it is anymore. Probably you had a great body and now it's just something else, and probably puberty just ruined everything, and now you've got pimples, you've got blackheads, your body is just not as great as it was. And you look at your reference point is your old pictures. So you're obsessed with your old pictures. You're constantly looking at the old you. You're constantly looking at your old body and you're like, Tenzevantu. So you're bringing it into your present. You don't want to accept where you've been. You don't want to accept where you were in the past. And probably in the past, you were better looking. You had a great body. You were slim and now you're big, you're chubby, you're an XL when you were once a size small. You were now probably 46 in size, and before you were at 26, and that's all you talk about. Muma stories, mukankana na banzanu. That's where your reference point is. You said, so hey babe, look at my pictures. Probably you're a guy. And before you were, this is relating to both men and females, you know what I mean, men and women. You may have been a guy and you had a great body, you were once rich, you were once doing well in the past, you had a great job, and now it's just not the way the way it was. And this also goes to maybe women, mothers, young mothers who have now you're married and it's just not the same. You're just not where, you know what I mean? Your reference point is where you were. So probably before, where you've been was a better place, and now it's just not. But I'm not talking about the present now. That would be the third thing. And also moving into our faith, point, which is probably you were orphaned at a young age. Okay, so where you've been is you grew up without a mother and a father, and you grew up in households where you are probably mistreated by your auntie or your uncle, or probably people that adopted you. That was where you were. All right, and you don't want to to accept that, but the fact that you're an orphan child, you're constantly reminding yourself, you're constantly looking at yourself as an orphan, which can breed self-pity. So probably you're just living your life in self-pity of that's the only story you're telling. It's like everything else in your life. Is the fact that I'm orphaned, and I grew up without my parents, probably died at 3. And probably the reason as to why you want to make it in life is to do a revenge. So you're on a revenge plan, to be great, and probably teach them a lesson. Who do they think they are? You know what I mean? I want to be better. So you are on a journey of, first of all, you've seen the baggage, you've got your self-pity on your back. At the same time, you've got this vendetta. I don't know if you've seen The Glory. It's this Korean series. This lady was on a whole revenge journey because she wanted the person who caused her the most hurt to suffer, not knowing that she was killing herself as well. Anyway, moving on to the 6th point, which is daddy issues. Now, where you've been, where you were in the past. Like I said, I think it interrelates with orphaned daddy issues. Where you grew up without a father, okay, and look, we get it. You grew up without a dad, blah blah blah. We all have been there in one way or the other. I think this our generation, we takula maningi na single this, single that. That's pretty much normal nowadays. But then that's where you were. And I'll give an example. I can pretty much relate with the whole daddy issues thing, where you just grew up without a dad, you grew up without a father. And you just never, even if, like for some of us, even if you have had your step parent, it's just not what you expected it to be. And so the other thing is you were once raped, defiled in the past, and now you hate men, okay? That's where you've been. You need to accept that situation. Probably you've been abused in the past. You were abused. It could be physically, it could be mentally, it could be, verbally. Verbal abuse is very serious. Verbal abuse is very valid. Okay, it's something that no one should tell you, no, it's so small. No one should invalidate the fact that you've suffered, vocal or verbal abuse. And those are things that probably, the people that have gone before us, the older generation, didn't understand when they called us Ifpuba, when they called us doll. I had a cousin who would always call me Dao. She would always call me Chi. You know what I mean? And that's verbal abuse. So you never really know what it's doing to you. And so probably that's where you've been. And then maybe you've been rejected, abandoned. Maybe your father denied you, your mother denied you. They left you for dead. They left you for the streets. They left you at an orphanage. They left you at a fire station. I don't know if that happens in Africa, but they left you. They abandoned you. Maybe your mother dumped you with your grandmother and you had to grow up with your grandmother. You grew up knowing that, your mother probably is alive. Your mother was probably alive, but then you just never really had the chance. And so you've been rejected before, you've been abandoned, and probably you are rejected by a girl or your woman or your lady, whatever it is. That's where you were. It's not where you are, but that's where you've been. You've been there. You know what it means to be rejected 20, 40 times by a company that you've been applying for, or being denied a scholarship opportunity. I know what that means to be denied scholarship opportunities. I've applied so many times. But hey, you know what I mean? And so you know what it means to be abandoned. You know what it means to be abandoned by your mom. You know what it means to be abandoned by, and being abandoned by your parents can be done even when they're alive, even when you're staying with them. They could neglect your emotional needs. They could neglect your physical needs, tell you all the time, we don't have money, we don't have money, we don't have money. And probably that's where you've been. Okay. And also, you've been through addictions. Probably it's pornography, masturbation, alcoholic, smoking. You have these addictions, they're innate in you, and that's where you've been. You know, it probably could be where you are in the present or where you've been in the past, but you've been there. You've walked that route before. And you know, there's addictions. There's you can be addicted to it. A lot of things. It could be your phone. You're just addicted to, or maybe you're obsessed with somebody. Being addicted to something. You can also be addicted to someone. Okay, you're just addicted to this person. You're obsessed with them. You know what I mean? And you know, and probably again you were once homosexual, maybe you were once a homosexual, you had an identity crisis, a gender crisis. You just didn't know who you were in the past, okay? You didn't know what you wanted. You didn't know where to be or where to go. You know, you were once at that point, probably you were homosexual at a point, you were lesbian, or maybe you were gay, you know what I mean? And that was the place that you were in. Identity crisis. You've been lost before, you know what I mean? And the last thing out of the 13 is that you were once in a better place spiritually. Now, look, we all have heard these stories of people saying, you know, and that just isn't your situation now, but you were once there. You were once involved with God so much that it made you do things. You were once overzealous. You were zealous for God, and probably something has just died spiritually, right? But the fact of the matter is you've been there once. I was once there, you know what I mean? Where the time when I first gave my life to God in 2017, I was on fire. I don't go around saying the stories of Denze Bantu, but then it's something that I've just kept at the back of my head, that there was once a fire. There was once a zeal. There was once a drive, man. And I would sit on that today and think and be like, But then one thing that is different is I have accepted where I've been. I've accepted where I was. I'm not going to bring it into my present. And so those are some of the 13 things that I feel and I believe that are places where we've been. If you feel and believe that I've missed something, you can bring it in the comment section. You can bring it in the comment section. You can bring it in my DM, and you can tell me, Chrisley, you missed this part. I've once been here. You didn't address this. You can bring it and address it yourself, because it's open to that. But these are some of the things that I've listed that we need to face. At the end of the day, it is the reality. Face the reality. Face the fact that you were once poor. Face it. Turn around and look and say you've got childhood trauma. Face it and say, look, the reason why I'm like this is because there is a childhood trauma somewhere, you know? The reason why I have fits sometimes. The reason as to why I throw tantrums sometimes, or I have manic episodes, is because there is just a trauma somewhere. The moment you will accept your situation and face where you've been is the point where healing starts. It took a very long time for me to accept where I've been, because I was always sweeping things under a rag. I was always like, no, man, I'm a G. You know, I'm not affected by the abuse I once faced in the past. I'm not affected by the defilements. I'm not affected by the rape. Come on, I'm a G. It's life, right? But the moment that I came to a point when I got to accept that that's where you were, and you need to look at it and you need to face it. You need to face the fact that the reason why you grew up without a dad is why you act like this sometimes. Because when you don't accept it, you won't understand why you act and why you are the way you are. So the reason why I'm able to sit today and talk about this is because I faced it. Now I know I need to have a therapist. I know I need a therapist now. Like, excuse me, I'm not going to try and make myself all strong and try to make myself like, no, I can handle it. No, I need help. I need help for the things that I never faced. I need help to bring me out and for me to realize that this is where I am, for me to accept the current position where I am. And sometimes I think it's okay to admit that you're damaged. But then don't forget that you've got a God and you have the Holy Spirit who is in you, who is able to create something new. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the moment we begin to look back, I know they talk about leave the past where it is, let the sleeping dogs lie, walk away from the past, forget it. There's certain things that you just shouldn't walk away from without healing. And that's just what I want to talk about. And that's just exactly what I'm addressing. People need to heal. You need healing. I need healing. It is okay to be damaged. It is okay to need fixing. It's okay to face your past. Face them. Face what you did. Accept the fact that you once probably may have aborted. Face it. Look at yourself and say, okay, you know what? That's where I was. Face it and say, okay, yeah, I was once a thief. You know, when I was young, I used to do that. I never really, it's only now that I'm understanding why certain things were the way they were. Why there was this little girl who thought it was okay for her to get things that just didn't belong to her. I always had this assumption that I'm the one who doesn't have, these people have, and so even if I get one thing from them, they won't notice. They'll have. They'll buy. Me, I don't have the money. And that was the justification I gave myself to stealing, right? It didn't dawn on me that I was doing something wrong. For me, it was like, it's the lesser evil. But then someone sat me down when I was caught red-handed, by the way. She sat me down and she said, Chrisley, do you understand the violation that is here? I know you feel like we can buy, but then, and I was so young, man. I was young. I was a kid. But for me, it was all right because I was like, it's the lesser evil. There is nothing like the lesser evil. You cannot justify an evil. So it is only now that I got to understand that that is where I was. But then you also need to understand, recognize, why was it like that? Why were you there? Why were you in that position? Why are you so ashamed of looking and uncovering your past? It's okay to look at your past. It's okay to uncover it, sit down with it, face it, and be like, that is who I was. I was a cheater. We're so ashamed of who we were. We're so ashamed. If you have anger issues and you don't want your girlfriend to know that you're such a violent man, I think it's okay to open up those scars and like sweep them under a rug, because eventually you will relapse. And look, this is something that can help you in the future. Nothing is hidden under the sun, because eventually you will relapse. And then your fiance will, you will be asking her, but why are you leaving me? What all that? She'll be shocked. She'll be like, hey, I never signed up for a violent man. But then that was something you never addressed with her in the first place, because you never really accepted where you've been. So accepting where you've been will help you to even be more transparent to maybe your significant other if you're dating, or you will be transparent to say, hey, me, I was once an addict. And so when I relapse, it shouldn't be something that should shock you, because I've been there. I'm not there now, but I've been there. Face your reality. And I think when you face your reality, it is now going to help you accept where you've not been. And that will be our next episode. And so I hope that this episode has just opened up your mind. It's just supposed to open up your mind and think about things. Think about it, reflect, understand, recognize. And last, I hope that you acknowledge to say, that is who I was. Now I know that I need to work on this. Because accepting where you've been will help you know that will help you recognize what you need to work on. And it will help you understand who you are and why you are the way you are now. That's what accepting where you've been will do for you. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about accepting where you've not been. Because accepting where you've not been will eventually help you accept where you are now. So you can't jump it. You can't accept where you've been and then boom, start accepting where you are. No, because eventually you'll be thinking about things that you've not done. But we'll go back into the cycle of self-doubt, self-pity. Now, those are the things that breed. And that's what we're going to be talking about. That's where self-pity comes in. In case you suffer from self-pity, in case you suffer from self-doubt, that's what breeds it when you do not even accept where you've not been, places you've not walked in. So that is what's going to be for our next episode. But I do hope that this episode has blessed your life as it has blessed mine. And follow it, share it at the end of it. And thank you so much for tuning in today.